Good evening, everyone. My name is Felicia Bell, and I'm from the How Money Works Company. Tonight, we're talking about change your literacy, change your life. We're going to have a session on how money works, stop being a sucker. So we are going to get started. We're basing this essentials class on the book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. It's written by Tom Matthews and Steve Siebel. And the whole point of this book and the whole point of this class is to give you the financial education to help you build your financial independence. We're going to talk about money concepts and we're going to talk about money milestones. And with a combination of these two, you can build your financial future. We want you to stop thinking like a sucker. Think like wealthy. We know sucker is not really a good term, but it kind of fits into why we're in the situation we're in now. And one thing the pandemic has exposed during last year was how much we all didn't know about how money works and how much we were ill prepared for emergencies and situations. So the good news is we have this training and it can be offered anytime, anywhere, any place, and you can talk with Troy and we can schedule it. But again, when we talk about sucker being a strong word, it's because financial illiteracy, meaning not being literate, is the #1 economic crisis in the world. So when we talk about being a sucker, because it does suck, it sucks up your time, it sucks up your freedom, it sucks up your income, because not knowing, you do make bad decisions. And bad decisions have financial impacts. So when we look at this, a recent study in financial literacy says about 30% of the people in the world are financially literate. Well, what does that really mean? It means that they can answer some basic questions about finances that can help them build their financial future. The sad thing is, and again, these are pre-pandemic numbers. 44% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency. 43% of student loans are not making payments. 9,333 is the average credit card debt or balance carrying households who will basically pay $37,000 over 30 years if they never pay off the balance. And 33% of American adults have zero retirement savings. Zero. There are 10,000 baby boomers retiring daily, and about 30% have savings. This is very sad. So the question is, how did we get here? Well, there's only 21 out of 50 states that require high schools to teach some type of personal finance. And when you think about what personal finance is, it's not balancing a checkbook. Personal finance is actually building your foundation. And it's not about being able to see how much money you have when you put it in your ATM. It goes beyond that. And only 21 states actually teach that. So it's really no wonder we are in, sadly, the sucker cycle. The lack of financial literacy traps us in the cycle. We just, every couple of weeks, we spend money, money goes in, money goes out. Where is it going? It's going here, it's going there. And we don't seem to be able to get ourselves on track. You think about it, look at where the money is going. It's going to eating out, it's going to maybe ride share, subscriptions, lottery tickets, coffee, alcohol. I mean, think about where the money is going. And if we've taken the time to make sure that we've got the right budget for us. You know, we had some friends over Memorial Day weekend, and one of the friends was looking at our TV because I switched out of cable. And he told me his cable bill was $350. And he's like, I have to get out of this cycle. $350 just to watch TV. And so that's a subscription that he's going to check. And obviously, he's going to look and see how he can reduce his cost that way. The pandemic has really eliminated my Starbucks budget because I used to take the train to work and now I don't. And so the Starbucks was right at the train station. So I no longer take the train because I'm working from home. So that little budget helps me apply it to any debt that I had incurred. So think about it. Now look at this. When you think about retirement, and for those of you who are not 60, but maybe being 30, it doesn't matter. You need to think about how you're going to build your retirement. Think of it as a plane. On the one side of the wing, you have your Social Security and your 401k. On the other side is your personal savings. So if you don't, are you on track? Think about this. There's 70% of your income you're going to need on your side of the wing. The statistics are showing that no, we're not saving enough. Millennials have saved 23,000. Gen Xers have saved 66,000. The baby boomers have saved $152,000. If you're 65 years old, and now the average lifespan is between 85 and 95, you could live another 30 years. That's not going to really last that long. But you got to think about how you're going to make your plane balance. So sadly, this is what it looks like when you're going to run out of money. You know, you look at your personal savings and you look at where you are and what are your options? Either you continue to work, go get another job, you reduce your lifestyle, change the way you want to retire, or you go live with family. Maybe none of those are available to you, but maybe if you plan accordingly, you can get your graph to look like this. And don't think it's too late for that. It doesn't really matter how old you are, and you get with one of your financial advisors, with Troy or anybody on the team, they can tell you and teach you and help you find the right product or service that help you get your graph to look like this. So remember I said at the beginning, we're going to talk about a few concepts. This is the first one, compound interest. It is the funnest thing. What is compound interest? Compound interest is getting the growth of money over time. And as Zoe said, it's interest on interest. It differs from simple interest. Sorry about that. Simple interest is simple, just you get a stated amount of interest every year. You're going to get that interest every year, same interest. If your interest is $10, it's $10. If it's $100, it's $100. That's all you're going to get credited to your account. Compound interest is going to be interest on top of your baseline and then continue to grow. I'll show you what that looks like. Simple interest. This chart shows 50-year timeline, 9% simple interest. You start off with $1,500. After 50 years, you have $8,250. That's not a lot of money. But if you want to just put that in some little item, that's my pocket change money when I get older, okay? But look at what it does when you put it on compound interest. 50 years, 9% starts at $1,500. Look at that. It's $133,000, almost $133,000. About 16 times what you originally started with. What do you want? Simple, compound. We all want compound interest. So we're going to take another look at a different scenario, what it looks like with different interest rates. You start off with $178. You're 25 years old. This is when you get it to 67. Now look at the difference. Here's 1%, and let's be clear, most banks don't do 1%. The average between 2020 was 0.05%. So it's even less than that. But let's just, for math purposes, this is what it looks like. Here's 1, here's 3, here's 6, and here's 9. So $170 a month to have $1 million at 9%. There you go. That's what it looks like when you have the right type of interest, compound interest. Now we're going to talk about the other fun one, the time value of money. 3 action steps for the time value of money. Start now, save regularly, be patient. Be patient. When you're baking a cake, you are supposed to put that cake in the oven, close the oven door, and not open it. Because if you open it before the time is out, the cake is going to go flat. Same thing with the time value of money. You're supposed to put it in the account, let it grow, and there you go. And then when it's time for you to take it out, you're going to have the balance and you want. But if you start opening it up and playing with it and taking money out, you're going to lose the value of the time value of money. So what does that look like? So starting earlier can make a significant difference. These are characters from the book, How Money Works. And if you don't have the book, let Troy know, and he'll make sure we can get that to you. This is Sarah. She's 22. She's putting in $4,000 a year, $333 a month. And then she's going to stop at age 29. She says, I'm just tired of saving. I'm done. I'm 29 years old. I'm done. She lets it sit there. And by the time she is, what did we leave her in there for 30 years? So by the time she's 67, she has $1.4 million. Absolutely fabulous. George, he starts saving at 30. So he started later than Sarah. And he also saved $4,000 a year. but he actually he saved for 37 years. He actually has less money than Sarah. Why is that? The time value of money. Sarah started earlier and then she let it just compound. There you go. So the longer you wait, the more you're going to have to save. So we always have this thing in our brain, $1 million is what we're going to need. And so at 67, you want $1 million. Well, if you start at age 20, you only have to put in $113 a month. As the previous example, at 25, you only have to start, you can put in $178 a month. But if you wait till you're like 45, 50, look how much those numbers grow. They're crazy, $1,200, $2,000. So time value of money starts sooner than later. Now, we have this fabulous program called the $1 Million Baby. What does the $1 Million Baby do? It combines those two concepts we just talked about, compound interest and the time value of money, and right when the baby is born. This is an option to leave a legacy for your children. The reality is you're not going to be able to leave the money that you thought you were going to leave it for. These are three things that impact your ability to leave legacy funds. Longevity, you're going to be living longer, so you're going to need that money for yourself. Medical bills, you don't know what's going to happen, and long-term care. There's an article that just came out today in Yahoo, the things that impact people's retirement and why they are running out of money. These were the top three things that they listed. The other one was inflation, but it was longevity, medical bills, not having long-term care, not understanding the impact of inflation, not understanding taxes. That's another story. But anyway, this is why the $1 Million Baby concept is fabulous. You start the project for your baby right when the baby's born. Your niece, your nephew, your grandchild, your own baby, whatever. You start it right away. So we're going to give you two different scenarios and see what that looks like. We have Dana versus Hector. So Dana's going to put in $13,000 right when the baby's born, and she's going to leave it there. She's going to put it in a 6.5% interest rate account that's compounded monthly, and she is going to leave it there. When the baby is born, by the time the baby's 67, the baby's going to have $1 million retirement fund. Remember we were talking about that airplane, your personal savings? Well, mom has now just funded the other half of the wing of her for her child, so they don't have to worry about it. The child can get billed from their personal, from the 401k on the left side and their Social Security, and now they have the other side of their wing from their parents. Oops. Okay, so what happens when Dana waits till the baby is 18? Well, now the baby's as an adult. Well, the savings is a lot less, right? Time value of money. Now there's only $311,000 in there. Okay, you don't have $13,000 to dump in right away. Okay, Hector says, listen, I only have $2,500. So he's going to put in $2,500 and then $250 a month for 4 years. He has the same $1 million by the time the baby, well, not the baby, but time the person is 67. He also decides he's going to wait till they're 18. So he starts at 18, puts in the $2,500, puts in $12,000 over the 4-year period, also around $300,000. So time value of money. If you start these things now and put it in to build a program for your child, and you don't have to think about it, they don't have to think about it, it's a wonderful thing. So there's a variety of ways for the $1 Million Baby strategy. Give Troy a buzz, and we can tell you how you can connect with someone to help build your program. The third concept, one of my favorite ones, the rule of 72. The magical math, fast, whatever you want to call it. We don't want to say trick, but it's like a magical trick. But you take 72 and you divide it by the interest rate that you are currently earning on your savings or any kind of account you're earning. And that's what's going to tell you it's going to take to double your money. So for instance, if your account is getting 1%, 72 divided by 1 is 72 years to double. This is a quick mental math shortcut to get an idea of what it's going to take for your money to double. You can use this in different ways. So let's go see what we can do here. So 72 divided by 1, 72 years. So let's scroll through quickly. At 9% interest, it's going to take us 8 years for our money to double. And if we can find that really fun account at 12%, it will take 6 years to double. Who doesn't want the 12%? Who doesn't want the 9%? 72 years to double. It's not, my money is not going to be spent by me. Somebody else is getting that money. So look and see where your money is sitting. There's $10 trillion. Actually, this is a lot more. This is 2021 now, almost, actually it's June, so we're halfway through it. There's $10 trillion sitting in money market bank accounts at 0.9% interest. That was the 2019 number. Do you see your bank on here? You look and see that these actually are less than 1%. Capital One is the only one that's at 1%. Everybody else is lower. Again, the average was 0.09%. In 2019, 2020, it was 0.05. But our sample explanation is based on the 0.09. So when we look at 72 divided by 0.09, that's 800 years for your money to double. So as Clark from our book says, your great grandchildren are going to be thrilled. You're certainly going to get any money from it. So in other words, your $1 in 2020 will be $2 in 2820. Okay, so we're not going to get wealthy off of that. That's for sure. Remember I said you can use it for different ways? We'll think about it from the credit card's perspective. The average interest rate on a credit card is 17%. 72 divided by 17 is 4.2 years to double. The bank is getting their money back in 4.2 years from you, and you are going to take 800 years to get your assets built. Now think about that. This is why we're in the sucker cycle, and this is why we need to move away from doing things like this. Okay, the 7 money milestones. These are our foundation. This is what we all need, no matter where we are in our life, beginning, middle, and whenever we have any changes in our life, we want to come back and look at our milestones and make sure we're on track. So here are the 7 money milestones really quickly, but I will go through them individually. Number 1, financial education. Number 2, proper protection. Number 3, emergency fund. Number 4, debt management. Number 5, cash flow. Number 6, building wealth. Number 7, protecting wealth. Number 1, financial education. What is a financial education? It's basically trying to make yourself financially literate by attending classes like this, reading the book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, and finding a financial professional to kind of walk you through the paces. You don't have to be out there by yourself. So you're here watching this. This is fabulous. You get to participate in this. So this is one of the best things to do. First thing to do is get your financial education and your financial professional to help you build the rest of these processes. Proper protection, also known as insurance. Protecting against the loss of income and protecting against the loss of savings. You always get the question, how much insurance do I really need? Well, the rule of thumb is literally 10 times your family income. So if it's bringing in $50,000, you need $500,000 worth of insurance. If you're bringing in $100,000, you need $1 million worth of insurance. That's sort of the rule of thumb, but everything is dependent on where you are in your life and the things that are impacting your budget. You and your financial professional will need to calculate your needs together because everybody's situation is different. The factors you need to consider when you're deciding how much you need to insure is your age, how much debt you have, what's your current income and your financial situation, what's your health like, because insurance is based on your costs are based on how good your health is, how many dependents are depending on your income, and then what's your role in a business. Sometimes I think small businesses forget, if you're in a partnership situation, you might want to look at the key personnel clause for insurance. That's another thing we can talk about, key man, key personnel clauses. So the same people who underestimate how much life insurance they need have a tendency to overestimate how much it's really going to cost. So these two assumptions have prevented people from actually putting their proper protection in place. 59% have life insurance, but a half of those are underinsured. When you say you're underinsured, what does that really mean? It means you don't have enough coverage. It means that if you have $100,000 or $70,000 income, and you live in California, live in an $800,000 house, and you don't have $800,000 of insurance, you're underinsured. If you have a $70,000 policy, you're underinsured. You want to make sure that you can cover the lifestyle of your family members left behind can still be covered by your loss of income. So one of the things I want to explain and clarify too, there's really only two types of insurance. There's temporary and there's permanent. Term and perm. Term does basically what it says. It's for a term, usually 10, 20, or 30 years. And its basic function is to provide a death benefit for those left behind. That is what term does, 10, 20, 30 years. So the reason term is so good is because it is the least expensive life insurance policy you can buy out there. And because it is, when your finances are a little tight, you can still buy the coverage that we talked about earlier. And that's because during these times of your life, when you're raising children, or you owe a mortgage, or you're paying for college, or you're running a company, your finances may not be that strong, your extra funds, but a term is the right place for that. So what happens when the term ends? Well, there's two scenarios that happens. You don't need the term insurance anymore, so you just don't get anything, or you still need it. So you have to either see if you can have a renewal, or you'd have to re-qualify for another term, if that's the way you want to go. This is what we call the financial X-wave. This is a picture of where the term and perm kind of works best. If you look on the left side, we see that when you have less wealth and more responsibility, that's the term insurance sweet spot. And then as you have more wealth and less responsibility, it doesn't work as well. It's no longer needed. But guess what? The permanent life insurance works through the whole parameter. So you might want to think about that. Permanent life insurance. I like to think of it as it works for me and it works for them. Term works for them because you're dead and the death benefit pays for them. Permanent works for me and for them because while I'm still alive, it has some nice little features that I can use while I'm still alive. For instance, it has a supplement to my retirement income. I can use it to add to my distribution when I retire. It has the ability to add long-term care protection. So if I happen to need long-term care, I can switch it on. If I never need long-term care, I don't have to do anything with it. And it has tax-free death benefits, just like the term. So the three big benefits, again, life insurance coverage for life. You get the long-term care rider, but you also get the cash value premium flexibility. So if you had a permanent life insurance policy during the pandemic and you lost your job and you're trying to, reassess and do adjustments to your bills, you could have called up your life insurance company and said, listen, I need to not pay my bill for a minute. And they would let you know how long you cannot pay it. They would say, hey, Felicia, you've been paying on this for about 10 or 15 years now. You have probably a few 18 months where we'll use your cash value to cover your premium costs until you get back on track. You decide. This is a benefit from a permanent life insurance policy that is not available on term. Again, term is for them and permanent is for you and them. So what are the wonderful other things you can do with the cash value? Well, do what you want with it, right? Do you want to buy that Tesla, the new one? Yeah, and you have some cash value, you could do it. You want to go on that vacation around the world? You want to take you want to get on these new fantastic cruise ships they're building now that they're getting back and launching again? Well, you can try to do that too. You want to give somebody a wedding, or you want to supplement your retirement. The one thing about the cash value in a life insurance policy, these are some wonderful things that it does. It has tax-free growth. It is creditor-free. They can't come after you if you happen to owe people money. They can't come after the cash value in your life insurance policy. It doesn't have any zero market risk. and it has tax-free income. Like I was telling you about adding it to your retirement distribution. Here's a fun fact. When John McCain ran against Obama for the election, he used his cash value in his life insurance policy to help fund his campaign. He obviously started a lot earlier. Time value of money, compound interest in the life insurance policy worked well for him. We should spend maybe a little extra time on this slide, long-term care insurance. That is the other type of insurance that is available. It is one of the things that is should be close to everybody's mind, because 70% of people are going to need long-term care, and only 8% of people over age 55 have prepared for it. I talked to somebody the other day and they were like, oh yeah, I talked to my financial advisor and they say I shouldn't even look into long-term care till I'm over 60. Bad advice. You know, long-term care is extremely expensive. And again, just like the time value of money, the sooner you get it, the better. Because the older you get, the more expensive it's going to be. Now, there's two types of way. Well, let's look at this chart first. This is an example of the long-term care costs. If you're going to need it for more than a year, the average person needs it for at least 3.9 years. And adult care, assisted living, home health, nursing home, nursing assistance, whatever it is, these numbers can be staggering, and they could also break the bank if you had not planned for it. Think about your retirement planning. Think about what you think you're going to be needing your money for. And let's think about this. Let's say you wanted to save $1 million, but your long-term care cost, let's say, is $350,000. Now you only have $650,000 to live off of that you had originally planned to live $1 million. Now you have $650,000. Not everyone has the ability to pay for everything. Medi-Cal, Medicaid, all those things, you just don't know what that's going to look like. We certainly don't know what it's going to look like when we're getting ready to retire. You want to see if you can control your own destiny, and getting long-term care insurance. You know, the best time to get it obviously is when you're in your 30s, because you're getting it. The cost of it is going to be so much cheaper because you're going to be healthier and you're going to be younger. Think about it. Now, there are two types of long-term care insurance policies. There's a standalone policy, and basically it is a use it or lose it policy. You pay into it like the term. And then if you never need the long-term care, then the insurance company keeps your premiums, just like a term policy. The option two is the rider to the permanent policy we talked about. It's just something that you kick in when you need it. And if you don't ever need it, you don't have to kick in the rider. So there's other benefits you can add to the permanent life insurance policy. There's critical illness and chronic illness. Critical illness is like having a heart attack, stroke, cancer, and chronic illness is like ALS, diabetes, Alzheimer's. These are other riders you can add. Some of them are at no cost. So you do want to talk to your financial professional and see if, have them look at your current insurance policy. If you don't have a permanent insurance policy, you want one, see if these riders are available to you, and then see how much they cost. It might be worth the extra $5 or $10 a month to be like fully covered. Wow. Milestone number 2. That was a lot. Hope you're still there. Okay. Number 3, emergency fund. Emergency fund. Okay, everybody don't panic. I know during the pandemic, everybody wished they could have gone to their little emergency fund to kind of subsidize things that happened to them. But okay, don't worry. As we're rebuilding ourselves and rebuilding this country, we can rebuild our emergency fund. Rule of thumb for emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of your income in your emergency fund. So you take your combined incomes, you're both working. This is what you kind of figure out. If your annual income is $50,000, 3 to 6 months, you need about between $12,000 and $25,000. So the misnomer is that you need to be able to have $12,000 up front and dump it into an account and call it your emergency fund. No, just set aside an account that you're not going to touch and just start building to it, and then call that your emergency fund. Just don't touch it. Don't take money out of it. An emergency fund is not your girlfriend or guy friend calling you up and say, hey, listen, let's go to Cabo because the flights are really cheap. That's not an emergency fund. Set it aside and build it. And then when you get to your your goal, maybe add just another 5% for padding, and then just leave it there. That's where you do. That's your emergency fund. So 2 rules for using an emergency fund. Use it only when there's an emergency, and then replace it when you can. Okay. Number 4, debt management. I know when we think about debt management, everybody cringes. Oh, that credit card. Oh, okay. We can go to this in a very extensive way, but we won't tonight. But if you need a little bit of help, let us know. So basically 5 tips of kind of getting yourself out of debt management. 1, know what you owe. Kind of figure that out. No more late payments. Figure out a timer. If you can't set yourself up on auto pay, use your watch, your calendar, whatever, and your phone. Everybody has the phone. Use that to pay your bills on time. And then target one debt at a time. Figure out which ones you want. There's a couple rules of thumb on this one. Excuse me. You start with a lower balance first, or start with the one that has a higher interest. I picked the lower balance. You want to early win, feel good about yourself, and then start paying it down. Then of course stop using it, right? And then, as we talked about before, the subscriptions. Take a look at your subscriptions. See if you're paying for stuff you no longer use. That will also help you and will free up some of your cash flow to help pay down your debt. And then refinance your mortgage. If you own a house and have the ability to refinance your mortgage, the interest rates keep going down right now. And if your income is stable, that might be an option for you. Number 5, increasing your cash flow. Increasing your cash flow, you earn additional income and you kind of manage your expenses. That's the best way to increase your cash flow. We're going to take a quick look at some of the expenses that you can try to manage, right? So create and stick to a budget. Okay, I don't like the word budget. I say a plan, because budget is like the word diet, and nobody likes to hear the word diet. We want to say we're eating healthier. We want to say we're changing our lifestyle. Okay, same thing with money. We want to say we're thinking healthier in our finances, and we want to change our lifestyle. We want to change our habits. That's what you should do first, right? Develop a game plan. What do you want to do? Where you want to go? How are you going to get there? What's the reality of how you're going to get there? Are you in a job that's relatively secure? You're in a job that's not secure? You want to put that in your plan. Maybe you can save some money on your car insurance, car and home insurance. That's actually a cute little tip. Now, I do this once a year just because I also want to see how competitive my homeowners and car insurance is. Now, I did do that one year. I did last year, actually, and turns out my car insurance is not very competitive, how much I'm paying right now, but my home insurance is really competitive. So if I went to go get rid of my car insurance and switch companies, my homeowner's insurance was not going to be competitive. So combined, I have a great deal. So I'm staying with my team right now. Look at repositioning your savings. Now, we had that chart a couple of slides ago talking about 0.01, 0.03, 0.05. There are other things out there besides your traditional bank accounts that you can access money and will help your money grow at better than 0.01%. And then again, see if you can, do something with your mortgage. If you bought your house and now your PMI, your equity is more than 20%, you might be able to get rid of that PMI, which is sometimes very substantial, and help you refinance your mortgage and free up some more cash. So other 3 big moves to supercharge your cash flow. 1, get a side gig, right? 43% of US workers have a side gig, and they average about $1,100 a month. Well, if you like driving, if you like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, I don't know, any of those kind of side gigs, you can take a look at that. Or you can start a small business. Lots and lots and lots of entrepreneurs were born out of the pandemic. And that is because people realized that they were expendable, or that their jobs weren't coming back, or they took the time during the pandemic to realize they didn't like what they were doing and they started their own business. Think about that as an option. And if you're working for an employer, this is number 3, you might want to look at adjusting your W-2 allowances. If you're one of these people that gets a big fat refund from Uncle Sam, that's because you overpaid in taxes. So if you were to adjust your W-2s, that means you'd be getting more cash in your take-home pay throughout the year, and then you could do more with it. You could either pay down your debt. If you have no debt, you can build your emergency fund. Well, if you don't need to build your emergency fund because you've got that taken care of, then you can start building your wealth. These are things you can do to kind of help yourself. Number 6, we're in the home stretch, people. Building wealth. Avoid the impact of taxes and inflation and accumulate and grow assets for the future. That is number 6. That is what we're all trying to get to. As we finished through 1 through 5 and we've gotten all those strategies in place, we can go, now I want to build my wealth. I want to build my wealth for the future. So when I actually do retire, I have something that I can do and I know where I am. So will your wealth last as long as you do? It's a question you must be able to answer. 63% of American people have a greater fear of running out of money in retirement than dying. And I will say to you, I am one of those people. I started learning financial literacy in a more in-depth manner when I was trying to do this myself, because I was panicking. I was like, shoot, do I have enough money to save? Ooh. So I repositioned my money so that stress level kind of left me. You should think about that, because everyone is panicking because, again, you don't have people have waited too late to save. They've lost out on some of the time value of money, and we're living longer. And if you haven't prepared for long-term care, when 70% of us are going to need it, these are all things that are going to eat into what little bit of money you might have saved. So what are the 4 threats to building wealth? Well, procrastination. We all live with that, right? I'm gonna do it tomorrow, I'm gonna do it tomorrow, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Okay. Losses, investing in products or services that generated losses that you did not anticipate. And so now your little budget that you thought you were going to have, whatever, is now a lot smaller. Inflation, not counting for inflation. And taxes, not realizing that you're going to have to pay taxes on the income when you get older. But procrastination is by far, our favorite form of self-sabotage. Impact inflation. The annual inflation rate has averaged about 2.8% over the last 100 years. I was talking to someone the other day and we were talking about trying to build his retirement plan. He was like, Felicia, how are you going to, count for inflation? Because in 1972, I don't know what year it was, inflation was 14%. I said, but over the 100 years, inflation has averaged 2.8%. There's no way you're going to know if inflation is going to be in double digits. We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. But you can kind of use the rule of 72 to understand what impact inflation will have on the cost of goods and understand what that's going to be impacting to you, right? So if the average rate of inflation over the last 100 years was 2.8%, rule of 72, then, the cost of goods are going to double by 25.7 years. And if you're going to retire in that time frame, then you're going to have to make sure that you have the money to pay for it. For instance, if we're sitting here thinking that a loaf of bread, good grief, loaf of bread now, depending on what kind of bread you buy, could be anywhere from $3 to $5, right? Or let's say $2. Well, what this is saying, in 25 years, that loaf of bread is going to be $4. But if you're planning your budget and retirement on the $2, it's not going to work well. So you got to account for it. The impact of losses. So whenever people think about losses, I don't think they think about it in the totality, right? You have a $10,000 savings account. It takes a 50% loss. You think, well, I just needed to get back 50%, growth back, and I'll get my money back. Well, no, 50% growth on $5,000 is only get you to $7,500. You're going to need 100% growth to get that money back. And the reality is there isn't anything out there that's going to give you 100% growth. So you got to make sure that you hedge your bets and put your money in accounts that aren't going to generate losses. They're going to be protected. You need to reduce the risk of losses. You need to diversify your portfolio, and you need to use the right financial vehicles to make sure that you don't have or feel those impact of losses. The impact of taxes. Okay, understanding how financial vehicles are used and taxed differently can help you make strategic decisions. Your tax strategy can determine how much money you keep in retirement, pay to the government, leave to your children. If you're one of these people that has all their retirement in 401k, that could be a good thing and a bad thing, depending on the situation. But the reality is your 401k has not been taxed. You deferred that. That's the whole point. So now when you start taking that money out, you're going to have, it's all taxable income. So if you need $50,000 to live off of, you're probably going to have to take out $60,000. You weren't thinking, maybe you weren't thinking that. So you have to think about these things when you plan your financial strategies. So we talk about, excuse me, the seed versus the harvest, right? Let's say you're 29 years old and you have $10,000 that's earning 9% annual interest, compounded daily. You'll have $250,000 when you're 65. You want to pay taxes on the 10,000, or do you want to pay taxes on the 250, the seed or the harvest? So a lot of financial people have given people advice, we'll just pay on the 250 later on because the tax rate will be lower. Well, history showed the tax rates haven't been going down. So I think I would rather pay 10,000 on the 10,000 than the 250. But you have to kind of balance it out. We've kind of made these little flags. The red is tax now. Things like your wages, dividends, stocks, those are taxed now. Your tax later is going to be your 401ks, your 403bs, your 457s, things that you've deferred. Those are going to be your tax later. And your tax never is going to be things that are not owned on your distributions. The cash value in a permanent life insurance company and a permanent life insurance policy is an example. So we think about this, the three components of a reliable retirement income. You want to protect your potential growth, you want to reduce any loss, and you want to create a predictable income that lasts. These are the things you want to work with your financial professional to make sure your portfolio kind of does these things, because that will ensure that your wealth is going to be there when you need it. Our final money milestone, protecting wealth, creating a will, and guarding your legacy. This isn't about having tons of money. This is about protecting what money you do have. Now, we've all heard, we know that Prince and Aretha Franklin passed away. They did not have wills. And because of that, and they didn't have estate plans. So Prince, when he was alive, did not want his music's live stream. You couldn't stream Prince's music. But he died without an estate plan and without a will. So his family had a huge tax bill. So they had to sell his music so they could generate the cash to pay Uncle Sam. You don't want to do this. You want to try to make sure that you have an estate plan available so your family doesn't have to go through a big barn sale to try to cover the taxes for Uncle Sam. Trust and believe Uncle Sam will garnish everything until the tax bill is taken. Aretha Franklin's kids just recently in March in 2020 negotiated a plan with Uncle Sam so they could release some of the money so they could start paying off the bill. So there are three key documents that you can have that you need for estate plan. These are very simple: will, financial power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive, and the HIPAA release. Now, I know a lot of people don't think about the HIPAA release, but you have to really think about that because a person's HIPAA information is protected. And if you have a child who's over 18, they're not going to give you the information. If you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend that you're not married to, they're not going to give you the information. So you really want to make sure that your loved one or the person you want to make those right decisions for you has the ability to help you with your final decisions. And then let's think about this. The process of a court administering a state in accordance with the state laws is called probate. So if you do not have anything in place, they will go to probate and they will make the decision. So the whole point of having, these documents in place is your wishes are going to be followed. And you, especially if you're trying to leave a legacy to your friends, your family, your kids, your charity, your pets, whatever you want to do with your money, you need to have these documents in place. Otherwise, the state will make the decision for you. Besides a will, there's a thing called a trust that you can also do and set up for your family. And one of the things that is really important is if you have a special needs child, special needs trust is something you really need to consider seriously. Oops, I got stuck in my throat on that one. But another situation that's happening a lot, there's a lot of grown adults, grown children, adults, I want to say, who may not ever have the capacity to live on their own. They're still living with their parents. They are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and they may never be able to live by themselves. So if you have a child like that you're taking care of, you really need to consider having a trust, a special needs trust, is setting up something for them for when you pass away. When people think about estate planning, they also get, have the same life insurance. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. Think about what estate planning will do. If you think about the cost to your family, if you don't do estate planning, it's not that difficult. You just have to get over that procrastination and then just start it rolling. This is an easy one to check off. All right, we're at the end. This is the discovery sheet that's in the back of the book. So whenever you are ready, give Troy a call. We set up what we call a discovery call, kind of go through what you need and what you're looking for. And then we kind of go back like little elves and start working with different providers and looking for the right solution to solve your problem. Then we get back together with you and review it and review the solutions that you want to look for yourself. You decide what you want. We just offer up recommendations and then we go through it together. So thank you very much. My name has been Felicia Bell. Well, it is Felicia Bell. And thank you for tonight.